Back at it again, and we have one with Walter E. Williams. Let's dive in.
Professor Walter Williams, how much political progress have blacks made in America since the death of Dr. Martin Luther King?
Well, in terms of elective offices, there's been significant political progress. But very often, more often than not, that political power has not been translated into the things that blacks need, like better schools, more safer communities. You know, some of the cities in our country whose mayors and city councilmen are predominantly black, they're some of our cities with the major problems. Now, I personally don't think that political power...
Chicago. Or should I call it Chirac?
...in and of itself is a solution to the problems.
Professor Ronald Walters, same question. How much progress?
Well, I think we've made a lot of progress. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was sort of a first stage, and with that, we started out...
What was this, guys?
Same question. How much
is a solution to the problems.
Professor Ronald Walters, same question.
Ronald Walters. I didn't catch the second guy's name, so I was just rewinding it back to catch his name.
How much progress?
Well, I think we've made a lot of progress. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was sort of a first stage, and with that, we started out 1,000 black elected officials. We now have about 6,651. So we've got a large number of black elected officials, mayors of many large cities and so forth. I think the challenge now is to try to leverage political power and economic power. And I think to that extent I would agree with Mr. Williams, that that's our next frontier.
Professor, I remember being told in school the way you get something done is to get people elected, and then you get the voting power, and then you accomplish these things. Why hasn't that happened?
Well, I don't buy that hypothesis. That is, if you look at Japanese Americans who, almost by any socioeconomic measure of socioeconomic success, they stand at the top of the pile in America. Japanese, they don't even have political power in areas where they're the most numerous, such as San Francisco. Or you find Jews in America. Jews, before they established themselves as political contenders, strong political contenders, they had a lot of economic power. Now, on the other hand, if you look at some of the white ethnics, namely the Irish established themselves politically in many of our cities. They ran the machines, but the Irish were the slowest rising among the ethnic groups. So I don't buy the proposition that in order to get economic power, a first-order condition is to get political power. It may be the reverse.
Interesting. In fact, it may be the reverse. You don't really need the political power in order to rise up. Interesting, because it's not something that we've been taught. You know, you elect people to try to get things done for your community, and you expect that to be the way for it to be done. But in reality, when we look at the statistics, because once again, facts matter, that's not always the case. Learn something new every day, huh? I didn't know that.
Let's talk about economic progress. Professor?
Well, I think the economic progress of blacks has been phenomenal. I would say progress in general among blacks. I think blacks are the only oppressed people in history that have accomplished so much over some of the highest barriers in such a short period of time. That is, if you could resurrect slaves, they would find that the grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren and granddaughters are mayors of the world's largest cities. If you considered, if you looked at black income each year and you added it up and just considered black people as a nation, black people would be the 9th richest nation on the face of this earth. Which is not saying that there are many, many problems that remain, but black people have made phenomenal progress.
No question.
Economic.
Yes, no question about it. When you look at, for example, even the harshest period of our subjugation in this country at the turn of the century, it was also the fastest period of black capital formation. So from a people who W.E.B. Du Bois said a long time ago came into their citizenship naked and penniless, what we have today is a people who have pretty much by their own, the dint of their own sweat, have achieved a tremendous status in this country.
Slavery and discrimination in America, that is history. Nothing can be done about it. And I believe in that sense he's right that we need not focus all of our energies on it. Moreover, I would argue that the discrimination, the problems that black people face today For the most part, have very, very little to do with the heritage of slavery, with the heritage of discrimination in our country. You know, in 1925 in Harlem, 85% of black kids lived in two-parent families. Today in Harlem, maybe you'll find 30% if you're lucky. Now, this is a great...
And therein lies the great problem. But the media never pushes that at all. If anybody has any news clips of any mainstream media platform putting that on display, clearly stating, hey, this may be the issue with our society today. If there is anything from any mainstream media platform, let me know. But I don't see it. I've never seen any clips. No clips from CNN, no clips from MSNBC. I even want to say I've never even seen it on Fox. No clips. Actually, no, maybe I have seen a clip about it on Fox. Maybe. I'll have to go back through. Because some, you know, I'm scrolling through to try to, you know, find all the latest news stories so I can bring them to you guys. And I think I came across the clip from Fox once that touched on that. But I could be wrong. But yeah, if there are any, let me know in the comment section. Send it my way via DM or in the comment section, please.
Change can't be attributed to slavery. It can't be attributed to racial discrimination. And that is, I think that too much of our focus is on discrimination and the heritage of slavery, as opposed to how are we going to cope with the immediate problems that we face in our communities today.
From San Diego, California. Go right ahead.
It's like the whole January 6th thing. Like, that's so far back. How are we going to cope with the things that we're dealing with today? How are we going to deal with this stuff going on today? How are we going to deal with gas prices that are the national average? I want to say it came down a little bit, but it was almost $5. But I believe in the past couple of days it's come back down a smidge off of that $5 mark. How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to deal with the baby formula? How are we going to deal with these food shortages that are apparently on the horizon? People are going to be paying astronomical prices just to eat. A cheap steak is going to cost something out the wazoo, according to some things that I've seen. And I've been diving a bit deeper into the food shortage issue, and I'm going to continue to dive deeper into it to try to uncover what exactly is happening, what exactly could possibly happen here in the future. But how are we going to deal with that? Nobody. I mean, you know, all I've seen, you know, some of these politicians do is just mention it. Oh, we're going to have food shortages. All right. Cool. That does nothing for me. Telling me, I mean, sure, maybe I could buy some meat now, but that's if people can afford it. That's if somebody can afford to stock up their freezer. But even then, if everybody's doing that all at the same time, you're creating a shortage before the shortage actually even happens. You know, so you run into that. But how are we going to solve the issue? How are we going to solve this runaway inflation? You're concerned about Jan 6 and all of this other. How are we going to solve this crime wave? You're trying to take away weapons and crime is rampant right now. I don't know. A lot of this stuff happening is just so backwards. It's just like, what?
I'd like to say something that, you know, I'm a white person and I've about had it up to my earlobes with the slavery issue. I mean, my great-great-granddad wasn't around when slavery was going on. I believe that in order for people to get together and organize themselves as a functioning unit, why don't they quit talking about the slavery? I mean, that goes back to Abraham Lincoln. We're almost beyond Ronald Reagan. We're entering the year 2000. Are they going to continue to use the slavery issue forever? The Africans themselves were the first ones who initiated slavery. The white Europeans couldn't have got slaves unless the blacks were complicitous in this effort. I think it's just an atrocity to keep using the slavery thing. And I've seen the blacks, from Martin Luther King up until today, go downhill. I mean, if they don't think they've gone downhill, look what's going on in L.A. with the gang shootings. And the one gentleman said, if they want to make education better for blacks, we'll give them to better neighborhoods. Well, they're living in black neighborhoods. Why don't they straighten up the blacks in the neighborhoods? Do they want to move to a white neighborhood where it's safe, or do they want to move to a better black neighborhood? Also, why doesn't Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson, Flip Wilson, Mr. T, all these super black studs with all the money, go into the neighborhoods and donate a lot of money to help their black brothers? They don't, because they want to be an Oreo cookie and they want to get white.
Thank you, Carl. Let me just jump in here.
Hey, just dropped it on him. Dropped it on him. Look. The guy right here wants to laugh so bad. Hold on, before I say what I'm gonna say, I want to hear what they have to say.
They want to get white.
Thank you, Carl. Let me just jump in here, Professor.
Well, outside of the volume of racism in those remarks, I think that I understand. I think the frustration of people who've heard a lot about slavery and who feel, I think, the tremendous guilt associated with it. It is a particular American crime, and I think we have yet to deal with it as a people. The Holocaust, of course, was something which was also an historical crime. It was something that somebody else did over there. Slavery was something that somebody did right here. And so it is an abiding part of the American scene. Like it or not, the condition of black people in America can be traced back to many of those things that were done. And so it's logical for us to raise it. We should not use it as an excuse all the time. And so I think to that extent, what we're talking about is history, and we're trying to make some sense out of the condition that black people face today.
Let me respond also to the caller's call. That is, slavery and discrimination in America, that is history. Nothing can be done about it. And I believe in that sense he's right that we need not focus all of our energies on it.
Yep.
Moreover, I would argue that the discrimination, the problems that black people face today, for the most part have very, very little to do with the heritage of slavery, with the heritage of discrimination in our country. You know, in 1925 in Harlem, 85% of black kids lived in two-parent.
Before he gets too deep into that, I 100% agree. And people still do this today. Oh man, slavery. You know, we built this country, emblem of slavery. And I'm like, yo, your parents, or your grandparents' parents experienced slavery. So stop it with the nonsense. This whole, oh, me and slavery. No, you're just being lazy. You just want an excuse to stay at the bottom and point the finger, and you want somebody to point the finger at. Stand in the mirror and point the finger at the reflection you see. Whoever's in that reflection, that's who you should be pointing the finger at. It is you and only you. There are plenty of successful black people in this country. Plenty of examples of black folks who've come from the perceived bottom and are now doing well. So why are they doing well and they're black but you're not? Oh, because, you know, slavery, you know, the white man is he's holding us down. He's always out to get us. What are you talking about? Was the same white man holding down Michael Jackson? Was the same white man holding down Michael Jordan? Was the same white man, you know, and the list goes on. Thomas Sowell, Walter, huh? Oh, it's just, he's just holding you down. He's 100% right, man. That's so far in the past, man. The only person to blame for your situation or circumstance is you. That's it.
Families today in Harlem, maybe discrimination in our country. You know, in 1925 in Harlem, 85% of black kids lived in two-parent families. Today in Harlem, maybe you'll find 30% if you're lucky. Now, this great change can't be attributed to slavery, it can't be attributed to racial discrimination, and that is, I think that too much of our focus is on discrimination and the heritage of slavery as opposed to how are we going to cope with the immediate problems that we face in our communities today.
Well, that is an incredible remark, because if at one time in the history of this country, blacks had ever been equal and then gone downhill, I think we could make the argument that slavery would have had nothing to do with it. But what we have faced historically is a situation where we have never had the resources to catch up because of slavery. We have never had an equal status in any measure that you can formulate because of that condition, because we started late and we were kept back late.
No,
so
but
I really don't understand how an academic can sit here and say that slavery had nothing to do with it today.
Okay, what I'm saying is that so far this year in Washington D.C., 70 blacks have been killed. 8,000.
Right.
Wait, 8,000 will be murdered this year, more than the entire Vietnam War.
Right.
Now, what I want to know is how can that be explained by slavery?
That is far different. That's particular cause is far different than saying that we can blame everything on slavery. I don't think anybody, any responsible academic who uses slavery as a basis can blame everything on it.
But I'd be interested in finding out what we can blame on slavery.
I would have loved to have heard what he had to say in response to that. He was right. Can't blame everything on it. But Walter's question was very interesting too. I'd be interested to know, what can we? What can we? Because at one point in time, black folks, I forgot, I want to say it was a Thomas Sowell video. It might have been a Larry Elder, because Larry Elder always comes with the facts. Shout out to Larry Elder. But one of those gentlemen was bringing up a fact in some statistics, speaking on how the black community, was rising faster than the white community, and it all shifted. We all know why. I got 3 letters for you: LBJ. And I'm not talking about LeBron James. But, all seriousness, that's when a lot of the issues that stymied the growth happened. It's not due to slavery. That was so long ago. Once again, and I know I always bring this up, but it just fits so perfect with a lot of these situations and circumstances. Eric Thomas said, if somebody came and pushed you down, and I come back a week later and you still laying on the ground, that is now your fault. It's now your fault. It's not the person's fault anymore. Were they wrong for pushing you down? Of course. Of course they were wrong for pushing you down on the ground. But if you stay there, if you lie there and scream and yell, oh my God, they pushed me down. Oh, they pushed me down. You just lay there for weeks and weeks, months, years. Like, that's your fault. You could have been got yourself back up, dust yourself off, and got on about your business. And I feel like that's the same thing that some black people love to do. Our ancestors got pushed down many, many, many years ago, and they took their place now and still want to lie on the ground, cry, complain, point the finger at everybody else except for themselves for why they can't get back up on their 2 feet. You haven't experienced a lick of slavery a day in your life. Some folks, some of these same folks that are lying on the ground, crying and complaining, haven't experienced the R word a day in their life. But yet they complain about, oh man, I'm not saying that the R word doesn't exist. Of course there are people that, are racist. Of course. But the prevalence with which that exists is very, very minute. But you guys can let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section. Do you agree that predominantly the issue isn't slavery? The issue came and started with LBJ and all of these bills and things to help the black community. In reality, all they did was hurt. All they did was hurt. That's all they've done. Y'all let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button before you go. Peace and love. I'm out.